Cancel the stolen vehicle entry. At 6:52 in the morning, Captain Simone Carter stood behind the security line inside the West Haven Precinct vehicle intake bay, watching a tow employee position a metal restraint near the carbon wheel of her black and red Superbike. She still wore her armored riding jacket, protective pants, and black boots. Her helmet rested on the counter beside a property bag containing her police credential, motorcycle registration, secure telephone, and helmet camera. Officer Derek Lawson stood across from her with a printed statement in his hand. According to the document, Simone had operated a motorcycle suspected of being stolen, presented questionable police identification, and interfered with a lawful roadside investigation. Lieutenant Paul Granger waited near the intake door with his arms folded, while Officer Cody Mills remained several feet behind Lawson, visibly uncomfortable with the direction the morning had taken. Simone looked toward the wall clock. Roll call would begin in 8 minutes. The officers assigned to West Haven expected to meet their new commander at 7 o'clock. None of the men in the bay appeared to understand why the woman they had detained kept checking the time. Cancel the stolen vehicle entry, Simone repeated. Lawson gave a tired smile. You are not in a position to issue orders. The motorcycle is registered to me. The vehicle identification number matches the registration. There is no theft report. Granger stepped forward and placed the statement on the counter. Sign this acknowledgement. It says you created confusion by presenting credentials that could not be verified at the scene. Simone read the page without touching the pen. My employee number was active. My rank became effective at midnight. Dispatch could have confirmed both. Lawson shook his head. The night roster did not list you. The night roster was issued before the command assignment took effect. The tow employee moved the metal restraint closer to the wheel. Simone's voice remained calm. Do not place that equipment through the carbon rim. Preserve the motorcycle in its current condition. Lawson looked toward Granger as though the request proved she was still trying to control them. You keep talking like you run this place. Simone turned her eyes back to him. I do. A short silence passed through the bay. Mills looked at the credential bag, then toward Granger. Simone had already noticed the lieutenant avoiding her name. He had not asked dispatch to verify the appointment. He had not contacted personnel. He had not explained why her motorcycle registration showed the same name printed on the credential he called false. Instead, he had allowed Lawson to change the traffic stop into a stolen vehicle investigation and bring her into the precinct she had been assigned to command. Lawson leaned against the counter. Who exactly do you think you are? Simone looked once more at the clock. 6:52. Then she answered without raising her voice. I am your new police captain. Lawson stopped smiling. Mills straightened. The tow employee removed his hands from the restraint. Granger's face lost color, but before he could respond, the secured door at the rear of the bay opened. Deputy Chief Rebecca Hayes entered carrying a blue appointment folder. She walked directly to Simone, acknowledged her by rank, and ordered the property bag opened. The credential was genuine. The registration was valid. The motorcycle belonged to Simone. The appointment order named her as commanding captain of West Haven Precinct effective at midnight. Hayes then turned toward Granger. You opened this order at 5:12 this morning. No one moved. Why did you allow Captain Carter to be detained after reading it? Granger looked toward Lawson, then at the report on the counter. Simone did not demand an apology. She did not threaten anyone's career. She pointed toward the body cameras, the helmet camera, and the original report terminal. Preserve every recording before anyone explains it. Her first command was not punishment. It was protection for the truth. 59 minutes earlier, Simone Carter closed the garage door of her small suburban home at 5:53 in the morning and settled onto the black and red Superbike she had owned for 3 years. The neighborhood was still quiet, its lawns silver with early dew and its windows dark except for the occasional kitchen light belonging to someone beginning an early shift. Simone wore a black armored riding jacket, reinforced pants, protective gloves, and polished riding boots. Her helmet concealed most of her face, and nothing visible identified her as a police commander. That was intentional. At 7 o'clock, she would be introduced as the new captain of West Haven Precinct. Before then, she wanted to see the final hour of the night shift without rank changing anyone's posture, vocabulary, or willingness to follow procedure. She had spent 2 decades in law enforcement, including 4 years supervising professional standards investigations, and she understood that people often behaved differently when they knew authority was watching. Simone activated the helmet camera before starting the engine. A small indicator confirmed that the recording was uploading through a secure connection rather than depending only on the memory card inside the device. She checked the motorcycle registration in the waterproof compartment beneath the seat. Her name, address, license plate, insurance information, and vehicle identification number were current. Her police credential remained inside the secured pocket of her jacket, updated to show the rank of captain effective at midnight. Her secure telephone displayed the appointment order and a message from Deputy Chief Rebecca Hayes, sent 20 minutes earlier. See you before roll call. West Haven is ready for you. Simone read the message once, then placed the telephone inside its protective mount. A newly issued gate code for the precinct had become active at midnight, another quiet confirmation that the command transfer was complete. She entered the route to West Haven, lowered her visor, and guided the motorcycle onto the residential street. The Superbike produced a deep, controlled sound, powerful without being excessive. Simone kept within the posted speed limit as she passed closed shops, early delivery trucks, and buses beginning their morning routes. The eastern sky was turning pale behind the buildings. At 6:05, she stopped at a red light near the West Haven Commercial District and placed one boot firmly on the pavement. Across the intersection, Officer Derek Lawson sat inside a patrol vehicle with Officer Cody Mills beside him. Lawson noticed the expensive motorcycle first. Then he noticed the rider. Simone's visor was partly raised, revealing the face of a black woman wearing civilian riding equipment. Lawson watched her check the cross traffic and wait for the signal. That motorcycle costs more than most people make in a year, he said. Mills looked toward the license plate. She is not doing anything wrong. I did not say she was. The light turned green. Simone accelerated smoothly, staying centered in her lane. Lawson pulled into traffic behind her. For nearly 2 miles, she obeyed every signal, maintained a steady speed, and made no unsafe movement. Her helmet camera recorded the patrol vehicle following at a consistent distance. Simone noticed it in her mirrors, but did not change her route. She had been followed by officers before, both in uniform and out of it. Experience had taught her that calm observation preserved more truth than immediate confrontation. At 6:14, Lawson activated his emergency lights. Simone signaled, slowed, and turned into a well-lit commuter parking area near a coffee shop. She stopped the engine, kept both hands visible, and waited. The license plate behind her remained completely unobstructed. Lawson entered obscured plate as the reason for the stop before leaving his patrol car. He had not yet spoken to her. He had already decided what the record would say. Officer Derek Lawson approached Simone's motorcycle at 6:15 with one hand near his radio and the other holding a flashlight that was unnecessary beneath the commuter lot's bright overhead lamps. Officer Cody Mills remained several steps behind him, watching the helmet camera pointed directly toward the stop. Simone kept both gloved hands visible on the fuel tank and waited for Lawson to speak. Turn off the motorcycle. The engine is already off, she answered. Lawson looked down as though the quiet machine had challenged him. Remove the helmet. Simone unfastened the strap and lifted it away, revealing short natural hair and the calm expression of a 41-year-old black woman who had spent 20 years learning how quickly authority could mistake obedience for fear. Lawson's eyes moved from her face to the Superbike's carbon bodywork, upgraded suspension, and polished exhaust. Whose motorcycle is this? He asked. It belongs to me. I asked who it actually belongs to. Mills shifted his weight, but said nothing. Simone placed the helmet carefully on the seat. Its camera continued recording the unobstructed license plate, Lawson's position, and every word exchanged beneath the streetlights. The registration is inside the waterproof compartment beneath the rear seat, she said. My driver's license is in the secured pocket on the left side of my jacket. I will retrieve either document after you tell me which one you want first. Lawson asked for both. Simone announced each movement before making it, removed her license, opened the compartment, and handed him the current registration and insurance card. The registration listed her full name, home address, license plate number, and vehicle identification number. Lawson glanced at the papers, but did not compare the plate or inspect the identifying number stamped on the frame. A person can carry paperwork that does not belong to them. Dispatch can verify the registration in less than a minute. Lawson ignored the suggestion. He walked around the motorcycle, shining his flashlight over the plate mount. Nothing covered the numbers. No bracket blocked the state name. No dirt obscured the reflective surface. "This plate looked difficult to read while you were moving," he said. "Your patrol vehicle followed me for nearly 2 miles. The camera in my helmet recorded the plate's position before and after the stop." Mills stepped closer and examined the mounting angle. "The plate looks clear from here." Lawson turned toward him. "I did not ask for your conclusion." He returned to Simone. "What do you do for a living? How does my employment relate to an alleged plate obstruction? It relates to whether you have a reasonable explanation for riding a motorcycle like this." Simone held his gaze. "Ownership. Records are the reasonable explanation." Lawson's mouth tightened. "People do not usually refuse a simple question unless there is something behind it. I answered the question that matters. The motorcycle is mine." He used his radio to request a vehicle check, but described the bike as possibly stolen before dispatch returned any information. Simone heard every word. "Please record that you have valid registration in your hand and have not compared it with the vehicle identification number." Lawson looked toward his body camera. Its status light was dark. He had not activated it before approaching her. Mills noticed at the same moment. "Your camera is not recording," he said quietly. Lawson pressed the control. The indicator appeared after the questions about who really owned the motorcycle, after the suggestion that someone like Simone needed to explain how she could afford it, and after Mills confirmed the plate appeared unobstructed. For the new recording, Lawson stated that the rider had provided questionable ownership documents and was attempting to direct the investigation. Simone looked directly toward the camera. "The registration is current. The plate is visible. Your partner confirmed that. Please preserve the recording from your patrol vehicle and the time your body camera was activated." Lawson told her to stop giving instructions. Dispatch began responding over the radio, but he lowered the volume before the full result could be heard. Simone caught only the first words: "No stolen vehicle record." Lawson stepped away and called Lieutenant Paul Granger on his personal line. He described Simone as evasive, unusually knowledgeable about police procedure, and possibly connected to fraudulent vehicle documents. Her voice had never risen. Her hands had never left his view. At 6:23, Simone requested a supervisor. Lawson looked toward the approaching headlights at the entrance to the lot. "You are about to get one," he said. What he did not know was that the woman beside the Superbike had already been assigned to supervise them all. Lieutenant Paul Granger entered the commuter lot at 6:26 and parked beside Lawson's patrol vehicle. Without activating his emergency lights, he had already listened to Lawson's version over the telephone. An expensive motorcycle, questionable ownership documents, a rider who knew too much about police procedure, and possible fraudulent identification. He had not heard that dispatch found no stolen vehicle report. He had not heard Mills confirm the license plate was unobstructed. More importantly, he had not asked why Lawson's body camera began recording only after the most revealing questions had already been asked. Simone remained beside the Superbike with her helmet resting on the seat and her registration still in Lawson's hand. Granger approached her slowly, studying her face without acknowledging the name printed on the paperwork. At 5:12 that morning, he had opened an appointment email naming Captain Simone Carter as the new commander of West Haven Precinct. He had wanted that position for himself. He had read her service history, her employee number, and the exact time her promotion became effective. Yet beneath the parking lot lights, he chose to behave as though none of that information existed. "Officer Lawson says you are presenting documents that cannot be verified," he said. "Dispatch already confirmed there is no stolen vehicle entry," Simone replied. "The registration matches my license. He has not checked the vehicle identification number." Granger turned toward Lawson. "What did dispatch say about ownership?" Lawson avoided a direct answer. The return was incomplete. "The rider is unusually familiar with internal procedure, and the value of the motorcycle does not fit the situation." Simone's expression remained calm. "What situation?" No one answered. She reached slowly toward the secured pocket inside her riding jacket. "Lieutenant, my police credential is here. I am going to remove it with 2 fingers." Granger gave permission. Simone opened the credential case and held it beneath the streetlight. The photograph matched her face. The employee number was active. The department seal, identification features, and rank designation were visible. "Captain. Effective at midnight." Assigned to West Haven Precinct. Mills stepped closer without touching the case. The employee code format is current, he said. The photograph matches, and the credential has the new security strip. Lawson dismissed the observation. A convincing card does not prove she is an officer. Simone looked at Granger. Call personnel through the department switchboard. Use the number in your patrol directory, not one I provide. Granger already knew what the call would confirm. The night roster does not list a Captain Carter, he said. The night roster was published before the appointment became effective. Lawson pointed toward the rank line. No captain rides into a new command dressed like this. Simone glanced at her protective jacket. There is no uniform requirement for traveling to an assignment on personal time. Then why did you not identify yourself immediately? Granger asked. Because the motorcycle registration should have ended the ownership question. My rank should not be required for ordinary verification. The answer unsettled Mills more than the credential did. Lawson had treated the motorcycle as suspicious before learning Simone's name. Granger was now treating a valid credential as suspicious because acknowledging it would expose what he already knew. At 6:31, Lawson changed the event description from obscured license plate to suspected stolen motorcycle and possible impersonation of a police officer. Simone watched him enter the new language on the patrol computer. Preserve the original reason for the stop, she said. Granger ordered Mills to request a tow and directed Lawson to transport Simone to West Haven for identity verification. Lieutenant, Mills said quietly, we can verify her employee number here. Granger looked at him. That is a command decision. Simone placed her helmet on the ground beside the motorcycle and extended her hands calmly for the property inventory. Record that I requested personnel verification, vehicle identification verification, and preservation of the first report before you move the motorcycle. Lawson activated his camera's event marker as though the recording had captured the entire encounter. It had not. The helmet camera had. At 6:34, the tow request was entered, and the Superbike was classified as suspected stolen property. Granger had received the truth before dawn. Under the streetlight, he chose the report that protected his disappointment instead. Simone arrived at West Haven Precinct at 6:42 in the rear of Lawson's patrol vehicle, while the tow truck carrying her Superbike entered through the service gate behind them. The motorcycle was moved into the vehicle intake bay and listed as suspected stolen property before anyone compared the vehicle identification number with the registration still inside Lawson's possession. Simone was escorted through the secured entrance wearing her armored riding jacket, reinforced pants, and black boots. Her helmet camera, police credential, secure telephone, registration, and keys were placed inside separate property bags. Lawson handed the intake officer a report stating that he had stopped Simone for an obscured license plate, developed reasonable suspicion that the motorcycle was stolen, and discovered that she might be impersonating a police captain. The first sentence did not mention that dispatch had already returned no stolen vehicle record. It did not mention that the plate was fully visible. It did not mention that the body camera began recording after Lawson questioned how a black woman could afford the motorcycle. Lieutenant Paul Granger approved the report without reviewing the patrol vehicle recording or the helmet camera footage. Simone stood behind the glass partition near the intake desk and watched Lawson revise the event classification again. The original obscured plate entry became suspected stolen motorcycle. A second line added possible police impersonation. A third described Simone as controlling and resistant because she had requested verification through personnel. Her voice had never risen. Her hands had remained visible. Her requests had been procedural, not confrontational. Preserve the original report version, she said through the opening in the glass. Preserve the body camera activation time, the patrol vehicle recording, the dispatch return, and the helmet camera upload. Granger looked toward the intake officer. Document that she is continuing to interfere with the investigation. Simone answered calmly. Requesting preservation is not interference. Lawson carried her helmet camera toward the property counter and removed the memory card. He did not know the recording had already uploaded through a secure connection. Her telephone was powered off before anyone opened the appointment order stored on it. The tow employee began positioning a metal restraint near the motorcycle's carbon rear wheel. Simone asked him not to run the equipment through the rim because it could damage both the motorcycle and the evidence condition. Lawson treated the warning as another attempt to command the room. At 6:47, Officer Elena Brooks entered the vehicle identification number into the department system. The return showed Simone Carter as the registered owner for the previous 3 years. The insurance was active. The license plate was valid. No theft report existed. Elena looked toward Lawson. The motorcycle belongs to her. He answered that ownership did not resolve the credential issue. Elena scanned Simone's employee number through the internal personnel directory. The record showed active status, 20 years of service, rank of captain effective at midnight, and assignment as commanding officer of West Haven Precinct. Granger stepped beside her terminal. Close that screen. Command staff will handle the verification. Elena noticed the appointment email history attached to the assignment. Granger had opened the message at 5:12 that morning. She saved the initial report, its revision history, and the body camera activation timestamp before he could direct her away from the terminal. At 6:49, she called Deputy Chief Rebecca Hayes through the official internal directory. Meanwhile, Lawson placed a printed statement on the intake counter and told Simone to sign an acknowledgement that her conduct and unusual presentation had created reasonable confusion about her identity. Simone read it without taking the pen. My motorcycle is registered to me. My credential is valid. Your lieutenant received my appointment order before the stop. Lawson leaned closer to the glass. You do not get to decide what we verify. Outside, the tow employee tightened the first restraint near the wheel. Inside, the wall clock moved towards 6:52. Roll call was 8 minutes away. Simone's motorcycle had been labeled stolen. Her badge had been bagged as questionable evidence, and the officers she had been appointed to lead were writing a report designed to make their assumptions look reasonable. Then the secured bay door opened, and Elena returned with Deputy Chief Hayes walking behind her. Officer Elena Brooks kept the internal personnel record open after Lieutenant Paul Granger ordered her to close it. The screen showed details that could not be explained away as a database delay. Simone Carter's employee number was active. Her 20 years of service were documented. Her promotion to captain had taken effect at midnight. West Haven Precinct was listed as her command assignment. The motorcycle registration matched the name on her credential, and the vehicle identification number matched the frame inside the intake bay. Nothing remained unresolved except the reason Lawson and Granger continued pretending uncertainty existed. At 6:49, Elena called Deputy Chief Rebecca Hayes through the official department directory. Hayes answered immediately. Elena identified herself, provided the event number, and read the personnel record exactly as it appeared. She then explained that Simone had been detained, her Superbike had been entered as suspected stolen property, and Granger had approved a report alleging possible police impersonation. There was a brief silence on the line. Is Captain Carter safe? Hayes asked. Yes, Deputy Chief. She is behind the intake partition. Has anyone damaged the motorcycle or altered the original report? Elena looked toward the tow employee positioning equipment near the carbon wheel. The motorcycle has not been damaged. The report has been revised twice. Hayes instructed Elena to preserve the first entry, every later version, the dispatch return, the patrol vehicle recording, the helmet camera property log, and the exact activation time of Lawson's body camera. She also told Elena not to announce the call until she arrived. Granger stepped closer to the desk. Who are you speaking with? Elena kept the receiver against her ear. Command staff. I am command staff. Not the one on this line. Granger reached toward the keyboard, but Elena had already initiated an evidence integrity hold that required approval from the record's custodian before any version could be removed. She saved the appointment email history showing that Granger had opened the message at 5:12. She also preserved the dispatch response stating there was no stolen vehicle record. Lawson noticed the activity and entered the intake area. Why is she still searching personnel files? He asked. Granger lowered his voice. Finish the acknowledgement before roll call. Lawson returned to the glass partition and placed the printed statement in front of Simone. The document claimed that her riding clothes, private motorcycle, and unexpected use of a captain's credential had created reasonable confusion during the stop. Simone read the wording carefully. My clothing did not make the registration false, she said. My motorcycle did not make the credential false. Your refusal to verify either one created the confusion. Lawson pushed the pen closer. Sign it, and this can be reviewed later. The original report should be reviewed now. At 6:51, Elena disconnected the call and walked toward the vehicle bay. The secured entrance opened seconds later. Deputy Chief Hayes stepped inside carrying the blue appointment folder and a printed copy of the command order. She stopped near Elena without immediately addressing Lawson or Granger. Her eyes moved first to Simone behind the glass, then to the bagged credential, the printed acknowledgement, and the metal restraint waiting beside the motorcycle wheel. Granger tried to speak. Deputy Chief, we encountered a rider using credentials that could not be confirmed in the field. Hayes raised one hand. You opened the confirmation at 5:12. Lawson looked from Hayes to Granger. Mills, standing near the bay wall, finally understood why the lieutenant had refused every available verification step. The uncertainty had never been real. Granger had known the name. Lawson had ignored the records. Together, they had turned a lawful rider into a suspect and a valid captain into an alleged impersonator. The wall clock reached 6:52. Lawson turned toward Simone with frustration replacing confidence. Who exactly do you think you are? Simone looked at the motorcycle, the cameras, and the officers who had written their assumptions into an official report. Then she raised her eyes to him. Simone did not look away. I am your new police captain. The words were quiet, but they changed the temperature of the vehicle bay more completely than any shouted command could have. Lawson's expression froze. Mills straightened beside the wall. The tow employee stepped away from the Superbike, leaving the metal restraint suspended inches from the carbon wheel. Lieutenant Paul Granger looked toward Deputy Chief Rebecca Hayes, as though the appointment folder in her hands might somehow contain a different name. It did not. Hayes walked to the glass partition and ordered the door opened. Simone remained where she was until the release time was entered into the intake record and each property bag was accounted for. Her helmet camera, secure telephone, credential, registration, and keys were placed on the counter beneath the overhead lights. Hayes opened the credential case first. Captain Simone Carter, she read aloud. 20 years of active service. Promotion effective at midnight. Assigned as commanding officer of West Haven Precinct. Lawson looked toward Granger. You knew about this? Granger tried to answer carefully. I received an email, but I had no way to know the rider was the same person. Hayes placed the appointment order beside Simone's credential. The email included her full name, photograph, employee number, service history, and arrival time before roll call. The system records that you opened it at 5:12 this morning. Mills lowered his eyes. Lawson's confidence began to collapse under details that had been available from the beginning. Hayes then asked Elena Brooks to read the vehicle return. Elena stated that the Superbike had been registered to Simone for 3 years. The insurance was active, the license plate was valid, the vehicle identification number matched the frame, and no stolen vehicle report existed. The dispatch return also stated that, Elena added. Officer Lawson lowered the radio volume before the result finished. Lawson denied hiding information. Mills spoke before Granger could interrupt. Dispatch said there was no theft entry. I heard it at the scene. The statement hung in the bay. Hayes turned toward Lawson. When did you activate your body camera? Elena answered from the preserved timestamp. After the ownership questions, after Officer Mills confirmed the plate appeared visible, and after Captain Carter offered the registration. Simone stood beside the intake counter, listening without satisfaction. Her rank had finally forced the officers to hear evidence they had ignored when they believed she was only a black woman on an expensive motorcycle. That was not justice. It was proof of how conditional their respect had become. Hayes asked why the incident classification changed from obscured license plate to suspected stolen motorcycle and then to possible police impersonation. Lawson said the investigation had evolved. Simone looked at the unsigned acknowledgement on the counter. An investigation evolves when new evidence appears, she said. This report changed whenever existing evidence contradicted the accusation. Granger attempted to explain that bringing her to the precinct had been a temporary verification measure. Hayes pointed to the appointment record. Verification was available at the roadside. You already possessed it. The wall clock changed to 6:54. Officers gathering for roll call had begun appearing beyond the bay windows, unaware that the woman in riding equipment was supposed to address them in 6 minutes. Lawson stared at Simone as the truth settled into every corner of the room. The motorcycle was hers. The credential was real. The promotion was active. The precinct belonged to her command. Granger had known her name. None of those facts made the original stop wrong. The unobstructed plate, lawful riding, valid registration, and ignored verification had already done that. Hayes returned Simone's credential and asked, "Captain, how do you want to proceed?" Everyone waited for anger. Simone gave them procedure instead. No explanations yet. Preserve the original report, every revision, every recording, the dispatch audio, the helmet camera file, and the appointment email history. Her first decision as their captain was not to punish anyone. It was to make certain no one could rewrite how they had treated her before learning who she was. Deputy Chief Rebecca Hayes delayed the 7 o'clock roll call and instructed every officer in the vehicle bay to remain separated until their accounts could be recorded independently. Simone stood beside her Superbike while Elena Brooks initiated an evidence integrity hold on the original report, its revisions, the dispatch audio, the patrol vehicle recording, Lawson's body camera file, the helmet camera property record, and Granger's appointment email history. Hayes contacted Sergeant Malcolm Reed of Professional Standards through the official duty line and requested an immediate review. No one was accused of a final offense that morning. No one was permitted to rewrite the sequence either. The evidence began with the reason for the stop. Lawson had entered an obscured license plate, but Simone's helmet camera showed the plate fully visible beneath the early morning lights. The patrol vehicle recording showed that she obeyed every traffic signal, remained within the posted speed limit, and stayed centered in her lane for nearly 2 miles. The next layer was ownership. Simone had provided current registration, valid insurance, and a matching driver's license. Dispatch found no stolen vehicle report. Lawson did not compare the vehicle identification number before describing the motorcycle as suspicious. The third layer was the body camera. Its activation timestamp came after Lawson asked who really owned the Superbike, after he questioned whether her employment could explain its value, and after Mills said the plate appeared unobstructed. Lawson's official report described Simone as resistant, yet every available recording showed her speaking calmly, announcing her movements and requesting verification through ordinary department channels. The fourth layer was the report history. Obscured plate became suspected stolen motorcycle. Suspected stolen motorcycle became possible police impersonation. Each accusation appeared after evidence weakened the one before it. The final layer belonged to Granger. His appointment email had been opened at 5:12. It contained Simone's photograph, employee number, new rank, assigned command, and expected arrival before roll call. He claimed uncertainty at the roadside, but the record showed that he already possessed the answer. Hayes ordered Lawson placed on administrative leave pending investigation and required him to surrender his access credentials, department vehicle, and reporting privileges. Granger was relieved of night shift command and prohibited from contacting officers whose statements would be reviewed. Mills was instructed to provide an independent account and preserve every message exchanged with Lawson or Granger. Simone did not participate in deciding their final discipline. She would soon command the precinct, and she refused to let personal injury replace due process. At 7:06, the officers scheduled for roll call gathered in the briefing room. Simone entered wearing the same riding clothes Lawson had treated as evidence against her. Her helmet rested beneath one arm. The room expected an introduction. She gave them a standard instead. A badge does not make an assumption lawful. A rank does not make a person worthy of respect. Evidence decides what happened, and integrity decides what we do next. She then looked toward the preserved report displayed on a secure screen. My rank did not make that stop wrong. The evidence did. No one applauded. The silence was more honest. West Haven had met its new captain by showing her exactly what needed to change. 6 months later, West Haven Precinct operated under procedures that made every traffic stop easier to verify and harder to rewrite. The professional standards investigation had concluded after independent interviews, administrative hearings, and a review of the original recordings. Derek Lawson was dismissed for racial profiling, delaying activation of his body camera, ignoring valid ownership records, changing the reason for the stop, and submitting statements contradicted by video and dispatch audio. Paul Granger was demoted and removed from command duties after investigators found that he had opened Simone's appointment order before the incident, concealed that knowledge, and supported an unnecessary detention rather than acknowledge the truth. Cody Mills remained with the department after providing an independent statement and accepting additional field training. His testimony confirmed that the license plate had been visible, dispatch had reported no stolen vehicle entry, and Lawson had questioned Simone's ownership before checking the registration. Investigators reopened 11 earlier stops involving Lawson. Several records contained the same phrases: vehicle inconsistent with driver profile, unusual ownership circumstances, and suspicious knowledge of police procedure. Most of the drivers were black. Several had been questioned about how they could afford motorcycles, luxury vehicles, or equipment that was legally registered in their names. West Haven introduced automatic alerts when a body camera was activated late. Vehicle ownership checks were completed through an independent records channel before officers could classify a vehicle as stolen. Original reports remained permanently visible beneath every correction. Supervisors were required to document the specific facts supporting any expansion of a traffic stop. Simone also ordered quarterly reviews comparing stop reasons, searches, warnings, citations, and driver demographics. She never described the reforms as punishment. They were safeguards for the public, honest officers, and the credibility of every future investigation. On a clear autumn morning, Simone parked her Superbike near a neighborhood clinic and entered a coffee shop across the street. She wore civilian riding clothes and carried her helmet beneath one arm. Her captain's credential remained inside her jacket. A few minutes later, a young black nurse arrived on a blue sport motorcycle, wearing hospital scrubs beneath a protective coat. Before she reached the clinic entrance, a West Haven patrol officer noticed that the small light above her rear license plate appeared dim. He activated his emergency lights, and the nurse pulled into a safe parking space. Simone watched through the window. The officer introduced himself, explained the reason for the stop, and asked for her license, registration, and proof of insurance. He did not question whether the motorcycle belonged to her. He did not ask how she could afford it. He did not turn a dim light into suspicion about her character. His body camera was active before he approached. He compared the registration with the license plate and vehicle identification number, then showed the nurse where the light was beginning to fail. She explained that she was starting an early hospital shift and would have it repaired that afternoon. The officer issued a written warning and returned every document. The encounter ended in less than 8 minutes. The nurse thanked him, secured her helmet, and continued toward the clinic. She never learned that the woman observing from the coffee shop commanded the precinct. She did not know about Lawson, Granger, the preserved recordings, or the report that had once described a lawful black rider as suspicious because her motorcycle seemed too expensive. She had no title to reveal. She needed none. Simone watched the blue motorcycle disappear into the clinic parking area, then looked toward her own reflection in the glass. Her title had made them freeze. Justice began when another black rider never had to reveal one.